So, let's call to order.
I'll do a roll call. Angela Berry,
Present.
Brenda Bonacera,
Present.
Luke Boudwan,
Yes.
Doug Prescott,
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler,
Here.
and City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present.
So next is approval of the minutes from December 11th. Okay, want to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Here we go.
All in favor?
Aye.
Stand approved.
Now we're going into review of draft ordinance for City Code Chapter 10. Now, is that the one that we got the changes?
Yes,
now?
that's, so chapter 10, you received some changes and Kyle can introduce it. I want to explain, you received an amendment. So at the planning level, we began these revisions in the summer of 2024. Then some things happened in late summer, early fall, and there was namely Hurricanes Helene and Milton and all the response and recovery there too. Some administrative confusion on my part on which versions we were working with and getting things, so that was the reason of the update, and I apologize for any confusion that caused you. But this is part and parcel to the broader land code revision that we've been telling you is forthcoming. We talked about these ordinances a little bit before, and now you have them before you in ordinance format as opposed to just ideas. This is the ordinance that will be presented to the commission for review, and as a reminder, we are here for your function as the Planning and Zoning Board under Chapter 6, Section 6.02 of the city's code, where your job is to act in an advisory capacity to the City Council on petitions relating to zoning and on matters of proposal to changes to zoning regulations, and that's what we're doing today. So with that, Kyle, if you could substantively just speak to what's being done here.
So, yeah, like, we've gone through this with the city council. We had a certified planner working with us, Louis Sterna, and he provided the language as far as all the recommendations that came from either myself, Louis, or the city council. And we provided that draft to Attorney Mora, and he's put that in ordinance form for review. And we're gonna start with chapter 10. And so some of these are in red that cross out underlines, and then some are
It should all be black, that was just a formatting catch, there's no significance to what's red and blue.
So the first one that I see is gonna be on page 3 of 35. And that was a recommendation brought up by the city council when we met. And the idea is that the 7 a.m. to start work is a little early for some residents, especially on weekdays. So they recommended that we go from 7 a.m. to start work, which would be any project, you know, if there's a construction site in the city, or it could even be landscapers. And one of the points that was made by the city council was that, you know, most landscapers, because they're used to these ordinances in other cities, tend to wait till 8 o'clock to get started as far as mowing. So, again, this is proposing to go from 7 a.m. start time Monday through Saturday to 8 a.m.
Now, not to interrupt you, but the history of that was 7 a.m. for the yard guys. And I'm sure you hear my yard guy going nuts at 7 a.m. Because it's summer heat. They want to get out there and get as much done before they get smoked in August and September. But as far as swinging hammers and saws, we were worried 8 a.m. I didn't know we went to 7 just for that, the noise thing. But as far as yard guys, that was the only exception that we knew of. So that'd be my input on that.
I agree. I mean, the heat is horrible in the summertime, even at 7 o'clock. So I don't know if you can make it different for landscaping or.
Or just lawn maintenance.
I think we could.
Because they're gonna do it anyways, and you don't want your guy running around enforcing at 7 a.m. Because this morning my guy should woke you up. He was there at 7 a.m.
No, they didn't wake me up.
Oh, you're already up.
I'm the early girl.
I do my hard work early too. Yeah, I think 7 for the yard.
You like that for?
The swinging hammers, cutting, using saws, 8 o'clock, maybe it's
Yeah.
10, if you
Yeah.
don't mind.
Yeah.
They always start early anyway.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think it would be hard
Yeah.
to tell the
Okay.
difference. straightforward.
And then again, if you do your own yard work, this also says that you're not prevented, right? Okay.
And then there was another proposal made that the residents, the owners, could mow as late, was it 8 PM? When the sun, like during the summertime, when the sun's out later.
It's all for heat reasons, yeah. Well, I always forget his name, nice guy, he was on the city council, he lives in the corner of 22nd in Bay Shore. He's out there all the time, right at the last minute cutting his yard.
Okay. So that makes sense to you guys. Okay. Any other comments on that piece? Okay. So, and then we go down a little bit more, there's some strikers, section 10.3. And that is, covers the coastal construction line. And,
It's not being removed from your code, it's being, so part of this land code review is finding things and consolidating them all to one place. And so there's certain things, and you see it reflected in the title, but this section, chapter 10.3 on the coastal construction control line, we're not eliminating that, we can't, but it's being moved to chapter 94. And so putting all like kind things with each other rather than having to do an Easter egg hunt through the ordinances.
Gotcha.
so that's gotten moved to 94. And then we get to section 1033, which is time limits. And this is the time limits, originally there was really only one time limit set for any construction permit, and that was gonna be 18 months. So that would be, you know, if you're putting in something like a pool or doing a remodel up to a complete new construction of a house.
Which one's the new construction of the house?
That would be, let's see, permits. That would be, construction shall be completed. Yeah, that,
Other
it should
value
be,
over
it should be
25,000.
do you see where?
Isn't it other permits of value more than 25,000?
6 months, no. No, that should be, you're correct on that, that should be covered in there, so that would be, no, it's more than,
We're at 10-33B, and then there's 1 through 5.
yeah, the intention was to keep for the new construction, and that's something that needs to be
Because to
clarified.
build a big 5,000 square foot house now takes a good builder 18 months, the average 24. So if you're going at 12, it ain't gonna get done.
Yeah, the intention was to leave it, so the new build is gonna be 18 months plus a possible 6-month extension.
That'd be right for what would happen.
And then the proposed, for the next major would be a remodel over 300,000. Hey, morning. So that, so if it's a remodel and it's over 300,000, we're proposing a 9-month time period to start.
With how long about you to come in there and say, I'll give you an extension because of delays, and weather, inspections? Is it gonna be like 9 months plus 3? Or?
Yes, so if you go, so you're in section 1033 time limits, and then if you go to the C, it talks about the extensions.
Oh, okay.
So that one, we should probably do these at the same time. So over 300,000 remodel, you're looking at a 9-month starting time period, and then a possibility of a 3-month extension. For number 2 is there's gonna be a remodel that's under the 300,000, so not quite as major, could just be some bathrooms, maybe part of the kitchen. You're looking at an initial, no, see this isn't, it's got 12 months, I believe it's reversed. So I should say 12 months for a major remodel and 9 months for the less than 300,000. And same, these two got mixed on item C. So for one, remodels over 300,000, you're looking at 12 months starting period and then a 6-month possible extension. And then,
What I would change there, Kyle, is, you know, what happens if it's like somebody doing a 50% rule and they're gonna put a second floor on and it's really almost a brand new house. And then to get that done inside of a year is gonna be almost impossible. So you might put a cap on that, like 300 to 600, 300 to 500, then maybe another line.
What do you think about, including like an addition with the new construction, so like an 18-month?
That's why I'd go at, because
Okay.
you're gonna have 50% rules all up and down the beach here real soon, and they're gonna take this.
Okay.
Hold on, before we incorporate that, I mean, we do need consensus direction if that's what the board's wanting as advice to the commission, or, you know, if we're gonna incorporate these changes, because some of them are just things that are catches, so by all means, please all weigh in on the discussion.
So say what you're changing, Kyle, what you're looking at?
Okay, so, Mr. Prescott, he brought up, we're talking, we have a remodel with a value over 300,000, but he's bringing up, an addition. So something that's a little more extensive, like putting a whole floor on a house. And my recommendation was to include that under the time period of 18 months, along with new construction, with a possible 6-month extension.
Well, so and I think it's on tape, the lady that came to talk to us about building up, like she said, it could take as long as 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. So 18 months.
I understood that she said 11 months, up to 11 months to get the approval for grant funding, and then the fastest she thought that the construction could be completed was 2 to 3 years. So it might be close in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if we could think about kind of putting some kind of exception.
What
For
about the
a fund-
house
a
on
grant situation?
Arbor Drive now, between 6th and 5th Street?
Uh-huh.
It's been in the process of construction for over 2 years.
Yes, we, 509 Harbor, we had a code hearing yesterday for it. So we have them on a completion schedule. We were a little bit forgiving just because of the disaster.
Sure.
They're having some issues. First
But
just
that
getting
was
the power.
prior to you in the disaster.
I did have a hearing scheduled prior to the storm,
Yeah.
and then I postponed it once we had a storm.
Yeah, was that done due to financial reason, or what was the problem there?
So they asked for a 6-month extension, and that got them to the summer. And then I gave them a code violation for being over the time period plus extension, and then we scheduled the hearing. We just had the hearing, so I think they were running into material issues, getting supplies.
Yeah, they're moving along now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to complete, but yeah, that's a good example.
Okay.
So we're trying to rein in those, we're not trying to shorten any new construction time periods, because it seems like most of these are getting done in the 18 months, but a lot of them, I'd say about half are asking for
Well,
that
you can be
extension.
fair and reasonable too, yeah.
But the reasoning behind setting these limits per different project category is just because we've run into situations where someone's putting in a pool and it's gone 18 months. That's a very long time for a pool.
Especially when you're pumping water in the street for 18 months.
Okay.
So, like going to number 3, we brought up pools, and the proposed time limit for that is gonna be an initial 6 months, and then the 3 months extension if there's some kind of problem that they run into. Sometimes with pools, they need to change like their service, the electricity, and maybe possibly get a new wiring for the pumps. So that can complicate things, but not too often. The number 4 is you have permits. Well, so we got 3 a pool, pool 6 months, but there should be a category for above 100,000 or less than 100,000. So.
It's under the exemption.
So if it's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's under the extension, so if it's over 100,000, it should be possible extension of 6 months. And if it's under, then the extension's 3 months. Does that sound reasonable to?
Well, it's as vague as, Randy would probably help you with this more than I could, but number 5, so other permits of value of more than 25,000 goes to 6 months. That means you could go call that a $600,000 permit, and he's not gonna get it done in 6 months. So you gotta cap it.
So over 25,000,
I guess you're gonna roll that up to the next one, next level, say up to 300,000. Is
up
that-
to 3, you wanna put it?
Not just for clarity.
Yeah. Okay. How about, does everybody else agree with that, or?
I do.
Okay. And then we have the other permits that are under 25,000, which, you know, those are very small jobs, and we're recommending, you know, an initial 3-month, 90-day period.
That's reasonable.
Yeah, with a 1-month extension. So besides reorganizing and cleaning this up some, do these limits and initial time periods and extensions sound good to everyone on the board?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, now, moving down. We added some language on page 6 of 35, and it's under section
1036 sub D concerning dumpsters.
D.
What-
So-
What page is that?
6. It reads, for construction that is limited to pool installation or renovation or limited interior renovations, dumpsters that are not removed daily must be placed on asphalt or concrete driveway, and such dumpsters that are not removed daily shall only be permitted on site during the first half of the permit time limit specified in section 1034. So the idea of this is to either, so if they are gonna use a dumpster, they have to remove it daily unless, so if they're using like a trailer, it can't sit on the yard for an indefinite time period. We've had remodels, where up to 3 trailers with supplies or debris just sat on the property for an extended period of time, and that's what we're trying to cover here. You know, to at least keep it on, not on the grass, on a paved parking surface, and to limit the time period for the first half of the permit, because,
But on their property, not on the street.
yes, on the property.
Let's say I'm gonna build a brand new house and I scraped a lot, including the driveway. It's just dirt. Now I'm gonna build a 5,000 square foot house. What do I do with the dumpster?
Limited to pool installation or renovations, or limited to interior renovations. So, if it's a new build, we did not include that in this rule.
And then it says something about a cover. You get a roll off. You're not gonna get a cover until the driver picks it up and hauls it away.
There's nothing about a cover in the language we just discussed.
It's in there somewhere.
Yeah, provide a
For
dumpster, yeah,
construction that is limited.
with the cover. Number
Okay.
D.
So that is the current code.
Sorry, I was looking at the existing language. Yeah.
I
The added language.
It's
is
tough
covers.
to enforce, it's tough to enforce because what they do is, you know, they're putting stuff in their dumpster, and then at 6 o'clock at the end of the day, they're just leaving, and unless we have somebody following up every day.
Right, just so, for practicality, the dumpster companies don't send a cover with them. Only when the driver picks up, they roll it off the front of the truck and they cover it so it doesn't blow over the highway like the up and down the causeway did for the last 2 months. So there won't be a cover. They don't make them with covers.
So what you're suggesting is, in addition to the changes being made, the language requiring a cover
Take
as a
that out.
practical matter should be taken out, because
They're
that's
not
not
taking it out.
But it's just not enforceable. But yeah, when it gets windy, it blows into neighbors' yards, but there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah, that's usually where we run into, you know, a situation where we're enforcing is when you got an overfilled dumpster and, you know, it's windy day and it's blowing.
Insulation blows everywhere.
So possible, I mean, I'm sure that's covered in some other section, but maybe something,
can add some
some
language.
added language just about that. if we're gonna remove.
If your code enforcement or building inspector, whoever it is, sees that the dumpster's overflowing, then you maybe come up and say that they can tell them to get dumped.
Okay,
Because of course they'll fill as much as they get into it.
right. Okay. Everybody good with that? Okay. Let's see, next section. Page 8 of 35. And we have 3 sections here. These all deal with the Florida Building Code. And I answered this question yesterday for Chair Prescott. These are now, they've been incorporated into the new version of the building code. So the recommendation of removing these came from Rebecca Quinn. She's a consultant with Florida Department of Emergency Management. In reviewing our floodplain ordinance, some of it crossed over into chapter 10 and chapter 94. Chapter 10 is what we're reviewing, and chapter 94 is the zoning chapter. So when she saw this, she said, you know, it was a requirement back in 2014. It doesn't need to be in there anymore because it's been incorporated.
Into chapter 94.
No, this is completely removed. It's been incorporated into the Florida Building Code.
Oh, okay.
And then we have a clause in our code that says that we will stay in compliance with the current Florida Building Code. So it kind of automatically updates. Alright. Definitions. I believe 17 of 35?
Correct.
Okay, so this is number 12 under general standards. And the catch-all is no person shall occupy or let another for occupancy any residential or non-residential property that does not comply with the following requirements. So number 12, we added some language in, the whole thing would read, every occupant of any building or structure shall dispose of garbage, rubbish, and/or other waste materials in an appropriate sanitary manner. Garbage shall be placed in the garbage disposal facility or vermin-resistant storage container with lids as required by all applicable city codes. Bags and cardboard boxes shall not be considered vermin-resistant storage containers complying with the storage requirement of this subsection. So the language that was added was, we kind of, with some people that weren't putting it into a solid, trash receptacle, a can or a Rubbermaid container. We're claiming that the bag was the storage container that was in our code, even though it didn't necessarily have a lid to consider to contain. We added this language because we felt that, if it's a kind of a not well-made bag or a box being used to contain trash, that it's very accessible to animals and rodents, so that's why I put that language in. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, page 18 of 35, 1077 maintenance and appearance standards. This is off-street parking, number 2. And it says all off-street parking spaces and drives shall be paved with asphalt or constructed of concrete or paver bricks, remove turf block, and shall be of smooth surface and in good repair and compliance with city codes. And then we added the language, the use of permeable materials, i.e. grow web, turf block, gravel, crushed shell, etc. may be utilized. Loose surfaces such as gravel or crushed shell shall require some method of containment such as 4-inch thick or 4-inch wide border material of paver block, brick, concrete, composite material or equivalent to prevent float of loose material. That needs to be adjusted. For additional front yard parking, residents may include up to a 9-foot wide area adjacent to the primary driveway. Parking in any other part of the front yard is prohibited. So this was changed because it was requested by some residents that we were enforcing our paved parking only code section. And they requested that we meet somewhere in the middle by allowing, and we took the idea from the Dunedin code, by allowing another area that's built off of the paved driveway. When we specify the actual dimensions that it can be, and it must be contained, because our main concern is we just don't want the material, floating down into stormwater,
Yeah.
washing off the
Into the
property.
drain.
Does anyone see any problem with adding that parking language as far as adding additional parking space using the material that's contained? Is that on page 26 of 35, is that a adjustment? Or is that just a?
It's an addition, it's more specific, not something that warrants, it's just that it points to the sovereign immunity provision within the 76828.
Okay, so, yeah, he added 9 and A just to drill down a little bit more specific
What more page?
of the statute. On page 26 of 35,
Okay.
on 1087 indemnification. Okay. Page 30 of 35, the reserve sections were adjusted.
Based on everything after, yeah.
Just, yeah. Based on the fact that we removed Division 1, which is covering swimming pools, hot tubs, and spa, or Article 5, which is the whole article.
Article 5, swimming pools, hot tubs, and spas is removed in its entirety to be relocated within Article 5, the supplementary district regulations.
It's just on page 30, right?
Yeah, everything, well, 31 basically, everything after page 30 is removed from chapter 10.
All right, this is all about pools, right?
Yeah.
This is the
It's
last
just
part of
getting
it.
moved elsewhere,
Before I
right.
jump. Where's it, so it basically took everything out for pools in here, what's,
It's moving to, again, as part of the, trying to get all the like kind in the similar places, it's getting,
so all this wording just gonna end up somewhere else?
that's my understanding of it.
Yeah, so
Yes.
the reason it was moved is because in 94 zoning, there's other sections that deal with pools.
Right. So
And
it's
the
redundant.
planner thought that it should be all in one section.
So you're just making
That was the better
it.
choice. Yes, so that,
I did scan something, skipped something, and I don't know if it's, like I said, I scanned this real quick, but the code enforcement guy, where's he at here? And the only reason I bring that up is we've had
Page 20, Dave?
tons of complaints about our code enforcement. And Dave can tell you all about him because he fields most of the calls, but, the guy, I think it's the guy that's out on leave right now, I'm not sure. He's just walks into people's homes, and I want to make sure there's some clarity of how is he approached. Like before, they couldn't come to your backyard unless they had permission, or go to a neighbor's backyard and look over your fence. But like in a case of one of my rental houses, he decided just to have a plumbing problem fixed, and he just walked around the back of the pool area, opened up the door, walked through the house into the bathroom of the master bedroom.
Well, that shouldn't be happening.
I agree.
That's
I
not
wanna
something
make
that's
sure-
addressed in the
I
ordinances, that
wanna-
has more to do with constitutional law.
I get it, but I want to see what, I didn't have a chance to read all that, so I want to know, do you want to bring me up to speed what, it looks like there's a bunch of rules written about what they can do, and can't do, but I didn't check it all.
No, more of this has to do with the kind of notice that is provided to begin a
Okay.
code enforcement thing, but it's not getting into their powers and
But
duties.
instead of me saying, give me 20 minutes to go read it all, I want somebody to just give me this, what it says in here, just bring me.
It says that they have to give you a notice of violation as prescribed by Florida statute. Chapter 162 governs all of this. And so it's saying you have to get a notice, it includes the date of the violation, when you have to come into compliance by. It's all of the due process that goes into a code enforcement violation. It's really memorializing largely chapter 162, but none of it goes into how they go about their inspections and where they can go, because that's governed by constitutional law, that's
Right.
governed by our ordinance.
So if he has a violation and it says what he does, he sends a certified letter.
Yeah, exactly. It says notice as prescribed in this section shall be in the following. Include the date on which the violation was observed, the address, describe the sections that you're in violation. It's saying what has to be in the notice to give you notice of, hey, this is what I violated and this is what I have to address. And then it says how they can serve it and alternative methods of service. But again, all of it is just generally speaking
I get you, let's just say.
and we're not amending any of that here. That's just what's
Right,
in your code.
I understand, but I let's just say, where's the line crossed? Let's say a guy comes out to do code enforcement, and he feels that this particular contractor or non-contractor is not licensed or is, he's not sure, but he decides he's gonna go to the next level and arrest him. Because he could,
That comes from PCSO, our code inspectors.
but that
never
would be
do
something you'd write up and then send you a letter saying, I felt you didn't have a licensed contractor, or could you just stop the project right there?
Well, that sort of goes beyond, because there's laws about unlicensed contractors, that's more than code
Right,
enforcement.
But
Where
that's
this
not
is-
in here, that's not in here.
That's not addressed in here. Unlicensed contractors, its own statute under the Florida statute, so you're not gonna find the process memorialized here.
Right.
Because at that point, you're dealing with LEOs, law enforcement
Right, you go to the
officers.
next level, right?
Right.
So it's, like I said, instead of me reading it all and putting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just telling you, that's what it is.
If I'm gonna go like this, I'm gonna know what I'm reading and agreeing to, that's all.
Understood?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now,
That's all of the revisions that were proposed for chapter 10.
okay, so we're completely through chapter 10.
That was quick, 35 pages.
Yeah.
Well, and also that's part of, when you're drafting ordinances, especially when you're doing something like this, where you're changing all random parts of one huge ordinance, you have the option of doing a series of small sections, like changing section 1031, 1034, 1037, 1039, and it makes it marginally shorter, or you just say, here's the whole thing, and the underlines and strike throughs show you where we're looking at. And so its length is because it is an entire reproduction of chapter 10, and then we're jumping around, as you saw, 5, 7 pages at a time. So that's why it was so long. It was just easier, once we realized how many edits there were, it was easier to just say, here's the whole section and the ways we're changing it.
You got it, good job, Kyle.
All right.
Right through that quick. So since we've condensed chapter 10, we'd probably eliminate a few meetings in the future.
A boy can dream. We have a lot of work we're trying to do.
So we go to,
We'll need a
approve it?
motion, we'll need a motion to approve.
That's what I figured. A motion to approve the revision, review of draft ordinance for city code chapter 10.
Motion
Yeah.
to approve.
Yes.
Here we go, vote.
Okay, Member Barry,
Yes.
Member Bonasera,
Yes.
Member Baudouin,
Yes.
and Member Prescott.
Yes.
Okay.
Review of draft ordinance for city code chapter 22.
Okay, chapter 22 is covering environmental. And there's not too many, 11 pages total. And our first adjustment is on page 4 of 11, and that is section 22-33 under prohibited conditions and declaration of nuisance. And the number we adjusted is the very last, 24. And it read, initially, it used to read, or it still does read, children's toys, bicycles, skateboards, garbage cans, tools, or any other portable item that are not part of the natural landscaping shall not be left in any property, on any of the owner's property and visible from the street longer than 24 hours. And what we added was for basketball hoops. We said basketball hoops maintained good repair are exempt from this requirement but shall not encroach upon the city's right of way. For purposes of this subsection, encroachment shall mean intrusion or trespass of any kind, quality, or nature whatsoever into the city's right of way. Whether such intrusion or trespass is permanently affixed, installed, or portable, removed, or intentional, unintentional, any such encroachment as defined herein shall be presumed to interfere with the function and purpose of the city's right of way and its legal rights therein. So, there's a little extra language, this was meant to just allow the exception of the basketball hoops and making sure that if they are there, that they're in good repair.
And this is one of those, the language there came more from me than the planner. Other communities not too far from here, Seminole and otherwise, have had extensive hearings on basketball hoops and kids' basketball hoops and the concerns about, like, yes, of course, kids and people and families should be able to have them, but then the concern of, while they're playing at the edge of the street and they're leaving them there, they could fall on a car coming by. And so this is to balance those interests of course they should have them, but if it isn't a right of way, we want to have a mechanism to say, hey guys, you got to push that back a few feet, especially if it's properly, like, truly in the right of way and impeding our ability to care for that property and service it. So that's what that language is addressing.
Okay. And then the next is at the bottom of page 4. This is under section 2238, abatement by city, notice requirement. And this is dealing with the fee, which is an administrative fee. So upon failure or refusal by the owner and/or occupant of the premises to remedy the condition existing in the violation of the requirements of this article within 5 days after the service of notice to do so as provided herein, the city manager or his designee shall proceed to have such condition remedied by contract or direct labor or both, and the cost thereof and an administrative fee, and it used to say of up to $500, which may be amended from time to time, and we changed that to as established by resolution of city council. Shall be and become a lien against such property to the same extent and character as a special assessment, and with the same penalties and with the same rights of collection, foreclosure, sales, and forfeiture as obtained for special assessment liens. So really, it used to specify an up to $500 amount for the administrative fee. We, as one of the planner's recommendations, all our fees that have a monetary amount set in the code, it was recommended that we just say as established by resolution of the city council. So that allows us to, from time to time, make adjustments to what our administrative and other fees are throughout the code, which we can cover by resolution.
And who went through this and came up with this? The city council?
The $500?
Or to remove that, but put in a new provision?
And that was a recommendation by the city planner when I brought up multiple fees throughout the code that I thought possibly should be looked at or reviewed by council. So his recommendation was that we set a resolution with all these code changes that cover each fee.
A blanket deal.
Yeah, and then they can.
And that's also the trend that local governments have gone to when it comes to fee structures of any sort. A lot of them have moved towards unified fee schedules, or at least a subset of just a few fee schedules adopted by resolution, because when you adopt it by ordinance, if you're going to change an ordinance, you have to do a first reading, a second reading, advertise, and all of that. A resolution is just one reading, it's a quick change. So if we were even going to reduce a fee, for example, let's say it's $55 or something, costs us, we're not getting as much of those anymore, we just do 40. We still have to have 2 hearings, come before you, a resolution, we can just go to the commission and say, make it 40 starting tomorrow. And also the legislature's put a lot of mandates around fees, and so one of the ways to minimize the impacts of those mandates is to just have the resolution rather than have business impact estimates and all these things we have to do. So it was twofold.
And we did the exact same thing on page 5, under 2240 C, and that was the lien for the cost of clearing any lot, parcel, or tract of land, or of removing or remedying the condition thereof found to be in violation of this section, if the same is in excess. If the same is in excess of, and it used to say $300, now we changed it to add an amount as established by resolution of city council. So, that will also be as part of the proposed resolution.
I'm fine with that.
And right now, in looking at these, just as a general thought, there's none of the fees really, I feel, need to be changed currently, but I would just put it all in the resolution form for the council to consider. Then we go to page 7 of 11. Sorry.
Now there's all kinds of rules coming at us.
So section 22-61 noise generally, and under 4, we striked out yelling, shouting, etc., yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, singing, or creating similar noises on public streets, particularly between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., in such a manner so as to cause a disturbance of peace, health, quiet, or comfort of the neighborhood or vicinity.
What happens if the Bills win after 10 o'clock?
Oh, yeah, or Alabama comes back.
Well, that's part of why that
Y'all
language was
really
out.
shout.
And frankly, this language may get refined as this moves forward. The case law around noise ordinances has evolved a great deal. One of the more acceptable standards of late is plainly audible, instead of just like loud and ruckus, because then there's arguments that that's ambiguous. And so we're trying to move in that direction. In the interest of getting all of these edits to you, that full review has not necessarily been done here, but what we're trying to do is, one, make sure as we adopt this that it's in alignment with current standards, and take out the things that are a little less, that we know to be less sustainable, and the yelling and shouting thing just doesn't really hold. And it's so transient as a thing that it's harder to get a violation to even stick.
Just a side question, we don't have to get into it too much. Is content of noise similar to signs where you can't revoke based on?
Based on, yeah, like if it's religious speech, then you can't do this, we can't do those sorts of restrictions. So that's one of the other things we'll be looking at as we continue the review of the noise ordinance as it moves through the stages, the noise portions of this to dealing with noise.
Has it been I know a lot of this is boilerplate, but has there been a noise problem out here on the beach?
Nothing.
No, there were a few
Just
complaints as
small-
part of a broader dispute a few years back related to the elections and political landscape here. Outside of those disputes, no.
I did add the boat and vehicle noise, so we added boat and vehicle noise, the use of any boat or vehicle without a muffler in the operation of which cause a loud or raucous noise. We added this because we were getting vehicles being started or warmed up periodically, or boats in driveways. This is twofold, so you got the noise factor of it, but there's also usually some kind of exhaust fumes being, going over to neighboring properties, creating smells and actually it being seen. So obviously we don't really want property owners disrupting other property owners' enjoyment of their property by loud vehicle noises and boats and exhaust fumes. So this is just.
Unless they have a muffler, they're fine now.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not something like someone with all those real loud mufflers and just
Revving, yeah.
revving it up and
Yeah.
something that seems above and beyond, like
Right.
what a normal vehicle operation sounds.
About the one time it's really loud around me is when somebody's flushing their engines out, but that's not very long,
Right.
5 minutes maybe.
Or motorcycles and, yeah.
Or when I start my car, it's pretty loud, but.
Now, I have a question. What about electric bikes now? In the passage between property?
Oh, the easement.
Yes, yeah.
Bike trail.
Because a lot of people do walk these easements.
That is a different chapter, and I can make a note. We do have signs, and I have to check the code, which I think is backed up by code. It says no motorized vehicle. So I believe the e-bike would.
No, they're treated as bicycles, we'd have to separately regulate them. We do have the ability to regulate them on sidewalks, pathways, and otherwise, so we may have to look at that more broadly, and please document that. As far as e-bikes, if we wish to regulate them, and then there's different classes of e-bikes based on what the governor on them does and things, so we'll have to make sure.
An
we're clear on it.
e-bike is an e-bike.
For you, sure,
Yeah.
but by law, no. There's divisions of them. An e-bike is considered a bicycle as any other, but we do have the ability to regulate where they can be operated, so.
Now, I know I'm changing the subject here, but what about the electric golf carts that are on Gulf Boulevard and so forth?
Well, golf carts aren't supposed to be operated on Gulf Boulevard, that's a separate issue, and I don't believe this community has a golf cart ordinance in place. So that's a different thing. Another issue, when it comes to golf carts, under state law, communities have the ability to allow golf carts in specified areas of their choosing, like you see in Dunedin, or as you see in Indian Rocks Beach to your south. One of the challenges with golf carts is what people call a golf cart. There's actually a few divisions of, again. So a golf cart, it can only go, I believe, is up to 20 miles per hour. After that, it's a low-speed vehicle. That might look like a golf cart, but it's called a low-speed vehicle. A low-speed vehicle needs to have a license, registration, seat belts, lights. Golf carts don't need all that stuff. And so there's some differences there, and then who can lawfully operate a golf cart and the laws surrounding that. So we can look at that, but that would be separate from what's being discussed tonight.
Yeah, I guess I got away from.
Yeah, but there's entire, regimes around that, and I've helped write.
I was curious too, so I'm glad you brought it up.
What?
I'm glad you brought it up, I was
Yeah.
curious, but so, I've been around golf carts, driving around, back side streets could care less, I think it's.
Yeah, they're coming-
Golf Boulevard's a little different.
They're not supposed to be on Gulf Boulevard, even in Indian Rocks Beach where they're allowed. The way that their scheme and designated areas, you can use a golf cart to cross Gulf Boulevard, but you are not allowed to go laterally north and south on Gulf Boulevard.
That's
But
what
there
they're
are
allowed
plenty
to
of
do.
people. It's just a function of, whether the enforcement mechanism is there in that
So when
moment.
I run them off the road, I don't feel as bad.
I don't know how you're gonna feel, sir, but that's a different issue.
Okay. Thank you.
We do have,
Page 8 of 11.
Kyle, we do have a member of the public who wishes to
Oh,
speak.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't have you say, well, I mean, we could get, well, I was curious about the, the boat noise. So you're saying like, if you have a boat at a boat dock behind your house, you can't lift the motor out to flush it and run it? Because,
For longer, it's, the language there
but
says it's
after.
sub 12.
Yeah, I'm looking at the next one too, that you're gonna get to, it says you can't do it between 6 PM and 8 AM. So you gotta do it between 8 AM and, yeah, you gotta do it a certain time of day.
Yeah.
only.
Yeah, and this, because you wanted to change it for yard maintenance, we might want to consider the 6 PM to 7 AM if it's the owner.
Okay.
Flushing the,
Well, let's say if I go grouper fishing, which I do, and I come back in the summer and it's 8:30, it's still light, that's when I'm gonna wait till the last minute if the bite's on, and I am gonna flush my engine before I go.
Right, that's what I was looking at, it wouldn't let you do that. It would say you-
Now, allow you 4 strokes, you don't need to start them up anymore, you just run it through the lower unit, but
Right,
but the 2 strokes, you do need to start them up.
Right. Yeah, I was trying to think of something that's a little more practical there, but, because of all people that have boats in our back, or waterfront property, right, so it's gonna happen a lot for boats.
Yeah, and people wanna go fishing.
to
10 PM.
No. May I bring something else? What about neighbors behind you that are feeding wild animals, with rodent, creating a problem with raccoons and squirrels? It's just,
I think that is covered in.
Some of
Yeah, it's
red
in
birds
here.
on here somewhere.
I saw it.
you did?
Mm-hmm.
In the new one? But I did, yeah, the old one,
It
I
says,
did read something.
in your code right now, and this is on page 4, it says the feeding or distributing grain or food of any kind or nature in such a manner as to attract birds, fowl, or undomesticated animals of any kind or nature, whereby they tend to assemble or herd themselves together in a concentrated area, causing a nuisance and safety, however, and it goes on to say, that is on the list of things that are prohibited activities and considered a nuisance. It's already considered a nuisance in your code to do that.
Yeah, and we usually enforce that with the bird feeding. A lot of times we get, people that think it's okay to feed the wild birds. It attracts them all to the property. Let's take page 6, page 8 of 11. So is there any recommendation as far as what council members, Andres brought up, he brought up the flushing out your motor between 6 and 8. So that was set based on the proposed construction hour changes. So, and then we also have or any time longer than 30 minutes.
I don't think there should be too many restrictions on flushing your engines. I don't know how people gotta do it in the middle of the night anyways, but, we'll probably just take
Just
that out.
take it
completely,
out,
take
yeah.
it out.
And it can still be the noise element of it can still be regulated otherwise
Right.
without
That's the-
specifically making provision for that. If it's loud and ruckus or plainly audible from from X feet from the property line, then you're still gonna have the issue. which might be some of the language we put in terms of, we don't necessarily have to put decibel measurements, but you can have plainly audible from X distance from the property line, and that's what a lot of codes have moved towards as a
Like
way so
anything
that you
else.
can have some objective criteria to.
And you said you reversed the 8 AM, you went back to 7 for the other one? I missed that part, sorry. Okay. Hassle for construction workers, I think, right? They're all here at 7.
What we were saying was to let your yard guys start earlier.
Right.
Because it's hot.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But guys.
Even the residents want to start earlier. so-
Right.
Yeah.
Did we just talk about section, or B here?
We're at
So right below where we just decided to remove section 12, or is that subsection 12, I believe? The following activities may not be operated or caused to be operated between the hours of 6 PM and we have 8 AM on weekends and Saturdays, all day on Sundays and holidays, New Year's, Christmas Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and Thanksgiving Day, unless the public works transportation or utilities project approved by the city, unless it's one of our projects, it's the same. And then each category is any equipment used in construction activity, repair, alteration, demolition work on building structures, streets, alleys, or appurtenances thereto with sound control devices less effective than those provided on the original code equipment. And then any pile driver, steam shovel, pneumatic hammer, derrick, steam or electric hoist. And number 3 is any other machinery, appliance, etc., to the use of which is attended by loud and raucous noise, so to disturb the peace, health, quiet, or comfort of the neighborhood or vicinity thereof. So it's categorizing, any kind of construction, any of the pile drivers, which is louder equipment, and then any other machinery that is attended by loud noise. So this kind of all falls under what we talked about being construction activity. So is everybody okay with the 8 AM proposed start time for this?
I'm fine with that, just the only thing on exception was the yard code.
So just the yard. Does anyone see any, this is a quick scan, I don't see anything else in C, D, or E covering yard activity. So I think we're good there. Yeah, we'll keep that.
We get something on page 10 that's lined out.
Okay. Page 10 of 11. And this is section 2262 exemptions. And these are, the following noises shall be exempt from the restrictions set forth by other sections of this chapter. And number 5, noise from alterations, repairs, general maintenance, landscape, or yard equipment when conducted or operated by the property owner between, so we want to change this to 7. So this covers with the exemption. 7, and then this is where we extended it to 8 PM. So this is allowing the property owner to be making noise if they're taking care of their own property on these. It's an exception for them. So is everyone okay with that? Okay. And number 10, there's noises from construction activities, tools, or equipment used and operated at a construction site between the hours, and this, again, is what we're in agreement with, 8 AM and 6 PM on weekdays, and then it covers all the holidays. And that's all of chapter 22.
You took all our notes,
Yep.
So the review of draft ordinance for city code, chapter 22, we want a motion to approve it.
So I just have a question on the last one we just did. What if, is there something that covers like in case of an emergency? Like, is there something that Like if you have an emergency that has to be repaired, like your water main
Water
breaks
main
or.
breaks, yeah.
There is a section where the city manager is allowed to make an exception.
But it always happens Friday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's like having a
Yeah,
baby,
yeah.
2 a.m.
We can look into if the exception language is in there for emergencies.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking, cause, you know, things happen.
Okay.
So is there a motion to approve as amended?
Motion is approved.
Second.
Likewise.
Member Barry?
Yes.
Member Bonasera?
Yes.
Member Budouin?
Yes.
And Chair Prescott?
Yes. Any general business?
All is good.
We got 3 minutes. Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you.